Hi, I'm Leslie Maddox, the Geek Mama, and welcome to my channel. I'm excited to participate in the Virtual Homeschool Co-op for the very first time. If you don't know about the Virtual Homeschool Co-op, it's a community of homeschoolers that are working to build up the body of knowledge on all things homeschool. So if you'd like more information about them or to see other videos or read some blogs on different homeschool topics, check out virtualhomeschoolcoop.com. Now, like I said, this is my very first time participating, so before I get onto our assignment for today, let me tell you a little bit about my homeschool. This is our second year of homeschooling. We have 3 little boys. Our oldest is in 2nd grade. He's 7 years old. Our middle son is he's almost 5 years old, but he's really just doing K4 preschool type work, and my youngest is 2 years old. We never planned to homeschool. My husband is a former teacher. He's a financial advisor now, but he taught for many years in the public school system and was very pro traditional school. I am a computer engineer. I had a 13-year career in the computer industry before leaving to stay home with my oldest when he was just 6 months old. And I look forward to one day having some time alone again. So I certainly never planned I love being a stay-at-home mom, but I thought one day I would send my kids off to school and maybe have time for some other things. I never planned to homeschool. But eventually we did realize that it was the best choice for our family, and we can't imagine doing it any other way. We're very happy to be doing it and have seen a lot of benefits and for our family as a whole and for my children individually. So we plan to continue homeschooling. All right, now that I have told you a little bit about us, let's jump into the topic for today. Today's topic is how relaxed or structured are you in your homeschool? And spoiler alert, I am pretty structured. If you're into Myers-Briggs personality types at all, I'm an INTJ. And so I'm wired for structure. I'm wired to think ahead and to make plans and to strategize, to research and make lists. That's just how I am. There was a time when my kids were very young. I mean, they are still young, but when my oldest especially was very young. And I thought, well, I should be like these other moms who are more, I don't know, they just were different than I am. And I thought I should be more like them. And I'm sure many of us see other people and think, oh, I should take on some of those attributes or characteristics. Maybe that would make me a better person. And I was the same way. I thought I just needed to be a different type of mother. Eventually I realized that I am the mother that God gave these little boys, and so I'm the one that they need. So now I lean into my personality type, which means being pretty structured and routine oriented. But I also recognize that with children, flexibility is required. I learned that early on, that with small children, the only constant is that things will be constantly changing. So even though I have a lot of structure, I try to build into my structure the opportunity for flexibility, if that makes any sense. I realize that if I'm not willing to bend, then I'm just going to break. So I strive to be more flexible than I've been in the past, but I still do require a lot of structure. So I can tell you right off the bat, I'm pretty structured. But let's talk about a few different areas: daily routine, curriculum, grade levels, record keeping, and learning space. And I'll tell you how I rate myself in each of those areas and why. So the idea is to rate yourself from 1 to 10, where 1 is very relaxed and 10 would be very structured. So in daily routine, that's probably the area that I'm the most relaxed. I would say I'm a 5 on that. I would rate myself as a 5 because I don't have set times to do anything. I see my day more as blocks of different types of activities. There's meals, there's book time, there's seat work time, there's chores, there's items we do on the laptop, there's outdoor time. And so I move those blocks around as needed for my family. So for example, what we've been doing is doing our chores and seat work, or our chores and our book time in the mornings. And then we save our seat work and laptop time for the afternoon, and then we have meals and some free time in both morning and afternoon. We haven't had a lot of outside time lately because we do live in Texas and it's hot. It's hot down here. It's not a good time to be outside a whole lot. But in the fall and the winter, we spend more time outside. And so during those times, I'll add in outdoor time, usually in the morning. And so if I'm going to change that, I'll just kind of change one of those blocks around. So for example, this coming up week, I think I'm going to change things around. So in the morning, we'll do chores and seat work, and then maybe book time and laptop in the afternoon. All right, for curriculum, I would say I'm an 8. And so the reason I'm structured in that is because I am not educated to be an educator, especially for young kids who are learning to read and write and to add and subtract, some basic foundational skills. I think it will be easier for me to teach algebra than it would be to teach addition and subtraction. I've really struggled with that. So I rely heavily on curriculum created by experts in those subjects, people who really know what they're talking about, and on their teaching tips for how to help your young child who may be struggling or trying to grasp that new concept. I rely heavily on that. So while I tend to treat the lesson plans as a spine and add and subtract and customize as required for my kids, I really feel like I need those lesson plans or that basic structure from someone who really knows what they're doing. And this goes along with grade levels. I'm probably a 6 on grade levels because I'll just do whatever works for my kids at that time, but it helps me thinking about what grade they would be in if they were in a traditional school. It helps me to know what curriculum to choose. I'm not dead set on my kids using a certain curriculum for certain grades. So for example, my preschooler, he wouldn't be in kindergarten until next year, but he's doing kindergarten phonics now. And probably by the time he's in kindergarten, he'll be in first grade when it comes to reading. But then in handwriting, he might be a little bit behind. So I'm not going to try to get him to be doing exactly what kindergartners should be doing for handwriting. And I'm not going to hold him back in reading because, many other kindergartners may not be where he is in that. But then I've experienced problems when I haven't chosen a curriculum that is for their specific grade. Last year I chose a science curriculum that was for really all of elementary for my then first grader, and that ended up being a fail. He really didn't retain a lot of the information. I felt like he got more out of watching the Magic School Bus than he did out of that curriculum. I tried to go through it exactly as they said, and that didn't work. A lot of the work was really above his head, and so I ended up regretting it. So this year I chose a curriculum specifically for second grade, and that has ended up being a good thing. Now for record keeping, I would say I'm a 6 or 7. My state doesn't require for me to keep records, but of course I do, because you never know, and also because I'm an INTJ and I need my records. I need to keep track of things. I use an online lesson planner and check off things as we complete them within the lesson plan. And so at the end of the year, I can just print that out and add that to the portfolio that I keep for the kids for each school year. That also helps me to know how many days of school they've had and our attendance, because if we didn't complete schoolwork a certain day, then we didn't attend school that day. And so the lesson planner keeps track of that kind of thing. I'm also keeping track of a book list and have added a line item to my lesson planner because I kept forgetting last year. So this year I added a line item on Fridays to my lesson plan to update our book list. It's a spreadsheet, and I keep track of all the books that my oldest is reading and any read alouds that we do together or that I do just for my oldest. I keep track of the reading levels of the books that my oldest reads and what the subject was for. So I'm pretty structured when it comes to that. I'm also keeping spreadsheets for our history and science curriculum so that if I find any additional resources like books or videos or activities that go along with something that we're studying, then I'll consider doing those and remember to add them into our lesson plan. So I guess that sounds pretty structured, but it's not so structured as in we're doing all these things. I have created all that structure so that I can be flexible. So that if we take a day off, I can just easily move things in our lesson plan to another day without having to do a lot of erasing. So that if I'm sick one week, and I mean, for example, this past week I was sick and the kids were sick and it was miserable, and you know, people were throwing up and kind of a lot of chaos. And if I wasn't keeping track of things, I would have had to just give up school altogether until things were more on track and more manageable in our house. But since I had things in my lesson plan already, I can just look and see, okay, what are we going to be able to do today? All right, let's do those things and move this on to another day. It was easy to be flexible because I had been structured to begin with. Now for learning space, I would say I'm an 8. Pretty structured for that because we do have a schoolroom. I have another video where I talk about that, the reasons why we chose to have a schoolroom. It goes over the requirements that I came up with for learning space, and those requirements led me to decide that a schoolroom was the right fit for us. So we're pretty organized in the schoolroom. It's where we keep most of our school things, manipulatives, puzzles, educational games, our work boxes. I use work boxes for the 2 oldest kids, our desks, teachers' manuals, and I like having proximity to all of those things during our seat work time. But we don't stay in our schoolroom all the time. We're here maybe 2 or 3 hours a day, and then the rest of the time we're downstairs. We do all of our reading, our book reading, read alouds, phonics work downstairs on a couch or in the playroom or in bed before bedtime, cuddling in bed before bedtime. So we do all that kind of thing in a more relaxed environment. We do laptop work downstairs. Our laptop lives downstairs on a desk off the kitchen. So if my son has any laptop work to do, he does it there while I'm getting dinner ready. And anything messy that we do, if we're doing any painting, I don't do that in the schoolroom because it's carpeted and, you know, I don't want to go crazy. So we do that in the kitchen or outside. And science experiments too. Last week we did a little science experiment where we talked about the water cycle and evaporation. So we took some water and paintbrushes outside and did that out on the driveway. So we move around a lot throughout the house and outside, depending on what I have in my to-do list in my lesson plan for that day. But in general, there are certain activities assigned to each space, and our learning space is our place to do seat work or anything, or to do any type of work that requires materials I keep in the schoolroom. So I'm very structured in that way. So there you have it. We are a pretty structured homeschool, but that will probably change as the kids get older and work more independently, and as I give them more say in how we structure their curriculum and their days. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you would like to get more nitty-gritty information about our homeschool. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.